Hi ladies, it's Casey. I just wanted to jump on. I was trying to do this on YouTube and then my video crashed and I just lost 18 minutes of me reading this book aloud. But I want you guys to hear it, and so I decided to go ahead and jump on here and do it live on here so that if for some reason it crashes, at least I can still upload or you guys can hear what I did say. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading aloud Million Dollar Lips. This came in your new distributor kit, so all of you should have received this whenever you signed up, okay? But if you're like me, you probably haven't had time to read it yet, and so what I'm going to be doing is just reading this aloud to you. I'm going to read chapter 1 today. I'll do chapter 2 tomorrow, and if time permits, I'll continue to do a chapter a day. So far, what I've read in this first chapter is amazing, and I think that it gives us so much more perspective into our business more than just lipstick. So I want you guys to hear Joni's heart from this book, and so I encourage you to just put me on and put, like, you can minimize it and keep scrolling or keep working and just listen to what I'm doing. It's kind of like an audio book. So yeah, I'm going to get started on Million Dollar Lips chapter 1, okay? All right, chapter 1, Early Childhood Conversations with God and Others. Let me take a drink. I always tried to instill in all my girls, whether it was in their personal or their professional lives, that they always needed to keep time-tested, high standards in everything that they did. Joni seemed to get that right away and take it to heart. Even as a teenager, she showed a natural aptitude for business and a profound interest in it, and she started pursuing it when she was just 15 years old. I used to take her along whenever we'd set up a new store or a new sales market, and she'd always show a fascination with the resale aspect of the business. Jerry Height, Joni's stepfather and SeneGence board member. Now Joni starts talking. My hometown of Sapulpa, Oklahoma, made national news in 2008 when the local newspaper reporting on the previous night's presidential elections neglected to mention the winning candidate by name. About the only other time that tiny Sapulpa got that much attention was just before I was born, and when two of its younger citizens, known as the Collins Kids, made the charts with their bestseller, The Beetlebug Bop. Sapulpa is a quaint old town on what used to be Route 66. It has a picturesque downtown that looks like Main Street in the movies when it's supposed to show how America used to look. Sapulpa is just far away enough from Tulsa to be a small town even today. I like Sapulpa a lot. It's still home to me, even though I haven't lived there in decades. I still have dear friends and family there, and it's where I learned many of the most important lessons of my life. Go Oklahoma, girls. One of those lessons came on a sticky summer day in 1962 when, as a little girl of 4, I was riding my training-wheeled bicycle with reckless abandon and with no sense of limitation and without the slightest thought of world became my front yard. The cicadas were screeching, as they do at midday, and the cosmos were calling me to play. I hadn't yet learned that there are boundaries in life. The world was my playground, so I ignored my mother's warning about going out of the yard and went pedaling off into the paved street as if it was another part of an undiscovered continent. I did so with no sense of danger and no awareness of the monstrous things such as trucks are even part of this world, and even if they were certainly posing no danger to me. My spirited pedaling took me down the driveway and unwavered into the sudden roar of a dragon when an explosion propelled me virtually out of my body and certainly out of this world. I was hit by an old pickup truck roaring past my home. To say that I had died at that point is a matter of perspective. Call it floating, call it washing yourself from the outside of your own body, call it whatever you'd like, but it was heaven to me. There was a bright white light we hear about. More than that, a sense of euphoria came over me, so entirely that I never wanted to leave it. But I was enveloped in a sense of love and warmth. A loving voice told me that instant that I had to return, that it was not my time yet to be in this place of white, yellow, warmth, and infinite peace. At that tender age and immersed in what can only be described as unconditional love, I felt an energy that clearly indicated I was home and blissfully peaceful. When I heard that heavenly voice, I understood at that moment that my true father was in heaven, and that my own parents in quaint Sapulpa were but my earthly loving hosts. I was told in that moment by the heavenly voice that I was put on earth to do something specific with my life. I was directed to observe life as it unfolds and to watch and learn and apply what I was to learn. I was instructed to not be afraid, as I will be with you. He continued, You must return for your mother. It is not for your time to be here yet. You have much to learn and much work yet to do. No, I said, I want to stay here with you. He replied, "You must go back to your mother. You see she is crying," and I saw that she was. I was thus catapulted into a life of spiritual at an age when most girls wouldn't have been more concerned with playing house and collecting dolls and watching mother cook. This may sound like a great deal of responsibility to hand off to a little girl of the age of 4, but think about it for a moment. Who among us wouldn't trade everything for that kind of leg up on destiny? Talk about job security. I not only had loving, supportive parents, but also a God who had already bothered to get in touch with me and to do so personally. By all accounts, the incident was a hit and run. Either the truck that struck me didn't see me or they just simply didn't stop. I was found on the side of the road by a kind older African-American gentleman who was wearing tatted overalls splattered with paint. He immediately picked me up from the pavement and walked me and cradled me in his arms to my front door. I observed this from above. This mysterious gentleman had witnessed what had happened to me and related the sequence of events to my astonished and frightened parents. It was as if he appeared out of nowhere, performed this spontaneous act of kindness without seeking reward, and then he just disappeared. He left me in the safe care of my mother and father and walked away from our home, never to be seen again by me or my parents. When that truck hit me, I flew over the bicycle's handlebars and was heading straight for the curb. The impact was painless and instantaneous. My wondrous journey thus begun. My wounds were minimal and not serious. I recovered quickly and painlessly. Of course, as this 4-year-old girl began to tell her story of floating with angels to a loving place of white light and complete peace, the adults around me were glad to see me recover, but they dismissed my accounting of a spiritual inner experience. Their skeptical compassion was accommodating as that of a loving parents and friends can be a 4-year-old girl's apparent fantasies, especially as I recounted that I watched the scene unfold as if I were looking from the upper corner of my living room, watching my mother sob over my body lying still on the couch. And yet it also became obvious to me that my mother and father included that I had undergone some sort of transformation in and through that accident. My behavior immediately became that of a girl much older than me. My interest shifted, as did the entire emphasis of my life. I was no longer that typical little girl fixated on the entertainments of childhood. Humanity and the ebb and flow of energy and its cause and reaction began to fascinate me. The world of their adults, their language, their perspectives seemed more intriguing to me. Some children naturally gravitate toward adulthood. I didn't. I switched into adult life that very instant. My newfound affinity for grown-up living seemed to be the direct result of my death and life experience and the understanding that there was a heavenly Father, known to me as God, who guided everything I did. Whatever the reason, it was the beginning of a whole new level of participation and purpose in life. I became absolutely fearless, and I embarked on a life fully fascinated with all that unfolded before me on a daily basis. At 4, my life was gifted, purposeful, and directed. I began to plan not to waste a single day of blessings. During my early childhood, so many of my happiest moments were spent on my paternal grandparents' nearby family farm, where I lived with my dad, William, and my older brother, Billy. My mother and 2 younger sisters had already moved to California to begin a new life. There's something about a farm that can be magical, especially for children. The closeness to nature and the circle of life experienced firsthand through animals and plant life is something that lives on within your consciousness for an entire lifespan, even if you leave the farm. I was on our farm when I learned one of my life's most valuable lessons, this time from Grandpa Lineal Rogers himself. Like it is yesterday, I still remember the day Grandpa Rogers entertained us in the barn with a giant tarantula that he found nearby. Tarantulas are, at best, fearsome, furry, creepy animals filled with venom and put on Earth for the sole purpose of killing other creatures. At least that's what I thought when I was 7. But that day in the barn, I learned that fear is relative to the potential for harm, and I learned that fear is mostly unwarranted if you are prepared. I'm going to reread that sentence. But that day in the barn, I learned that fear is relative to the potential for harm, and I learned that fear is mostly unwarranted if you are prepared. And once you realize that harm usually comes only to those who are unprepared, life takes on a whole new meaning. This was the day I would learn that we can, by preparation, fend off even the scariest potential predators in our lives. When we first saw the tarantula crawling on Grandpa Rogers' cracked leather boot, we were terrified, especially when Grandpa let the creature crawl further up his bootleg. I didn't realize that Grandpa was putting on a little show for us children to make a point. As the tarantula moved from the tip of his boot up to the ankle, my grandfather pulled his blue jeans tightly to the back of his leg so that the venomous creature had no leverage to crawl up Grandpa's jeans and make contact with the skin. You never need to fear, he said, before finally and decisively brushing the tarantula off his leg and out the barn door. You can protect yourself from anything if you anticipate a problem, understand the potential for harm, and know how to prepare to prevent harm from happening. I'm going to reread that one more time. You never need to fear, he said, before he finally and decisively brushed the tarantula off his leg and out the barn door. You can protect yourself from anything if you anticipate a problem, understand the potential for harm, and know how to prepare to prevent harm from happening. That lesson had glue, super glue. It stuck with me forever, and it helped me prepare for and eliminate many potential difficult life challenges and gave me confidence I would learn how to deal with new situations over and over again. In that moment, I was reminded to never fear, always prepare, anticipate, and be willing to do the work and trust the voice inside my head. I'm going to pause for a second, but I don't know about y'all, but I'm super glad this is who's running our company right now. I don't know about y'all, but it sounds like what we're going through, we need to be hearing these words. Most of all, it taught me that when a situation seems ominous, there's always a solution. You simply need to ask the answer. Often answers come to me in life through the voice of my Heavenly Father, and one of my most memorable farm experiences as a little girl was another conversation with Him. There is a vibrant life energy that you find in every corner of the farm, an energy that is spiritual. Everything is blossoming, growing, and nourishing. There's a spirit moving life all around you, in you, and with you, and you can feel it in the wind. I have read scientific explanations about why Oklahoma is so windy, but I don't really understand them. I do know that parts of Oklahoma are often continuously breezy, including Sapulpa, and the wind is enchanting. As a result, the scent of grassland and farms and fertilizers in life travels far and wide. It's the circle of life, and it's evident and abundant. It isn't surprising to me that the next heavenly encounter 3 years after the first occurred amid the natural setting at the farm, the time my heavenly voice was instructing me on another vital aspect of living. I'm taking a drink. On the periphery of the farm was a large rock formation that overlooked an incredibly beautiful meadow of native Indian grass and wheat grown for hay. Tan and green and supple as it waved and crooked in every breeze. I would go to that meadow in my private moments to commune with nature and to gaze upon the shiny lake that sparkled like a diamond tiara in the late afternoon sun. Mostly, I would retreat to my lovely reddish sandstone hideaway to pray and to have those private conversations that little girls of 7 have with their dreams and with God. That private retreat was also a place for reflection and thanksgiving. And late one afternoon, when the sun was getting low to the west over the nearby town of Stillwater and the trees and brush around me cast magical golden shadows, I felt the glorious presence of God once more. This day, He was telling me that I had a big job to do, that my life would be unusual and exceptional. And He reminded me to never be afraid. When a doorway to a new opportunity was presented to me, I was to walk through it just as I was to recognize each experience preparation for the next. Big words for a small girl, but I understood. I understood then that I had a lot of work to do. His voice told me that when I couldn't walk the path myself, He would carry me. I would never be alone. Whatever I was to do would reach around the globe and affect millions of lives. Since that day, I have made it a life's habit to pray for courage, wisdom, and strength of heart and mind to see me through the mission I was given by my Creator. Even today, I teach my sons to pray the same way, to pray for courage, wisdom, and strength of heart and mind to see me through the mission that we are given by our Creator. Throughout my life, I have been fortunate enough to have prayers answered, in fact and directly, and it isn't the realization of one's prayers, the ultimate affirmation of faith. At this point, let me qualify the fact that I've had other visitations from Him, as I think we all do, but this moment at my sandstone retreat was one of the most profound and abrupt interventions from angels guiding me from harm's way. Imagined? Inspiration? I know what happened. I can say in truth, and it doesn't matter how these things in my life are perceived. I know that they occurred, and the fact that they did enabled me to get through life with all of its challenges and opportunities with a continuous sense of trust accompanied by such an overwhelming feeling of gratitude that I simply could not fail. Yes, I've been blessed. Looking back, one of the greatest blessings bestowed upon me was the understanding that I was to always listen to my inner voice. I recognize this voice as the voice of God. His voice has been my guide always. There have been times in my life when I have not listened closely to this inner voice, and the choices I've made in those moments have not been positive. As life becomes busier, with energies being expelled in so many directions, as a businesswoman, a wife, a mother, a sister, a daughter, a friend, my challenge and my prayers are geared toward being more aware and listening to my inner voice, the voice of God. This I believed most of the time and one and the same. Philosopher Doretha Brand once said, "Act as though it were impossible to fail. Imagine if you were able to conduct your life that way. What great things would you accomplish?" We are all the sum of our experiences. That's what makes us unique. The issue on this journey of life is that we do with the experience what we have. Let me tell you one last story from my early childhood, an event that taught me one more valuable lesson. Children can be tactless at times, more often than not without meaning to be so. That was the case with me when I was a small girl. I pointed my finger at an obviously disfigured old man who I happened to come across in the store. He was wrinkled, old, and hunched over with a noticeable hump on his back that some older people often get. What's more is he looked sour, and to my child's mind, without redeeming qualities. My dad, William Rogers, was standing next to me. Dad was a big man, 6 feet and 4 inches tall. He was rugged, charming, and handsome. Dad loved people, and people loved him. He was a true tough guy, a U.S. Marines veteran from the War of Korea, but he had the heart of a kitten. At that moment, Dad sensed my reaction and took me aside immediately. He assured me that this very gnarly, seemingly unattractive old man had remarkable qualities that weren't visible to me, qualities he challenged me to see by looking more deeply beyond the obvious. Dad urged me to understand that inside this man, whoever he was and whatever his circumstances, he was here for a reason apparent and designed by God. In that moment, in the corner of that general store in that small town in Oklahoma, my dad's words sang a chorus of truth in a deeper way of sing. If nothing else, this man that I happened upon in that store was here to give me a gift of humility. In that moment, I fell in love with all of humanity. Since that day, I regard everyone as equal and equally valuable in their own way, regardless of stature, race, or background, knowing that our Father in heaven loves each of us, and He had shown me through and through to my very core. There could be no greater gift to a small girl than that kind of insight, and a wave of respect naturally began to flow from it. That moment, the confrontation, and the lesson that came out of it changed me forever, and very much for the better. I've learned to always keep an eye out for the true gift in life, people. I've learned to look into others' eyes and to see their special gifts beyond physical appearance, clothing, and accessories. I believe God has a purpose for every encounter. I strive to become a gift to others with each meeting. I look for the uniqueness of every human being. There were other lessons I learned as a child on the Rogers farm. I learned the importance of personal pride and the fundamentals of beauty from my grandmother Rogers. Despite her age, she was the most beautiful woman I know. Fastidious by nature, she was a model of both efficiency and decorum. Even though she lived on a farm and rarely entertained outside company, she gave tremendous priority to looking her best at all times. From the moment she awakened in the morning, she was busy washing, shampooing, curling her hair, putting on her makeup, and donning her nicest clothes, sewed by her, and always cleaned and pressed. Her reasoning was as infallible as it was simple. It's important to look your best for the people you love most, she said. And what could make more sense than that? If charity begins at home, so does consideration. Up until that point, I had never even thought about my personal appearance and grooming, or anyone else's, as being any of importance at all. Now here was my grandmother, someone I both loved and admired, giving such tangible emphasis to what most of us take for granted. I was fascinated as I watched her apply her makeup each morning. She stood in front of the small bathroom mirror holding a thin black Vivienne Woodward lacquered compact containing what seemed like an endless selection of gorgeous shades of powder. I was riveted as I watched her apply various powders to her face, cheeks, and eyelids with brushes of all sizes. Every day she was a new masterpiece. I saw this ritual as a work of love and motion. I was inspired. She demonstrated that personal grooming and appearance is a proclamation of respect for others as well as for you. Fast forward 35 years. My husband Ben and I were shopping for manufacturers that we might consider for acquisition to shore up the SeneGence supply chain and avoid future mishaps. As we were walking through the floor of one of these companies, I stopped dead in my tracks as we passed a showcase displaying one of the black makeup cases I had seen in the hands of my grandmother so many years ago. Our host noticed my reaction to the product and guided us into a section of the building where women gathered for makeup instructions. I was standing in the very room where Vivienne Woodward taught her beauty consultants makeup and selling techniques. I burst into tears as overwhelming feelings of love and a memory full of joy of my living grandmother surged through my body and mind in that moment. I turned my head to heaven and cried prayers of thanksgiving and gratitude to God as I realized I had just come full circle from a life's inspiration to my destiny. One of the benefits of finding a sense of direction early on was the fact that I was able to go to the school of life with some very bright people, many of them in my own family. My sisters and I not only had exceptional grandparents, but also two sets of very bright, loving, and devoted parents. I have always felt that I've had not one, but two terrific fathers. My stepfather, Jerry Height, Dad Jerry, is not only a great dad, but also one of the most astute businessmen I have ever met. I credit him for so much of the marketing and personal management acumen I have learned over the years. I know him only as Dad Jerry, and I say that with love and affection of a doting daughter, and he in turn refers to me as daughter, with a reciprocating love and respect. Even at 15 years of age, I was fortunate enough to be allowed into his world and to see firsthand the best aspects of logic, reasoning, loyalty, and leadership. He was the senior vice president of merchandising at Save On Drugs, so he knew the privileges of upper management as well as the responsibilities that came along with them. At that tender time in my teenage years, I was a sponge for information, as you can imagine. I wanted to learn everything, and with Dad Jerry's help, I learned many, many good business practices. One of the early lessons I learned from him was the importance of business ethics, to take the high road and when in doubt, to grant others their own level, both of trust and dignity. Dad Jerry emphasizes the importance of taking time to think through things. He is a firm believer in the retail philosophy that the customer is always right, and doing the right thing, whether it be easy or difficult, is the only way to operate your business. He also instilled in me the simple belief in the old chestnut of wisdom that there are no free lunches. In his words, the harder you work, the more substantial your reward. True ambition always stands out as long as it comes with a set of high standards and strong personal ethics. I learned from him that you do indeed reap what you sow. I guess it's not surprising then that even now I go to this man as a consultant when some important decisions are to be made with my business. He provides balance, perspective, and surprising objectivity. Dad Jerry also clarified early for me the importance of defining moments, which I discuss often in this book. Dad taught me that defining moments can happen in an instant or over a period of time, but they also alter our lives in an irrevocable way. One such defining moment that Dad helped me put in focus came in the late 70s while I was working on a grand opening setup crew for Save On Drugs. The first day I walked into a newly constructed but empty building, I felt a lump in my throat as I wondered how we could ever install display fixtures, check and price merchandise, stock the entire store, and train a crew in the time for planned grand opening. Accomplishing such a daunting task required me to rise to a level of performance I previously thought was impossible. Those pressure-packed days taught me how to perform under pressure. Oh my gosh, are y'all hearing this right now? I'm going to reread this. Accomplishing such a daunting task required me to rise to a level of performance I previously thought was impossible. Those pressure-packed days taught me how to perform under pressure, how to work on a team, how to understand the range of possible outcomes and analyze a situation, and how to jump in and get a job done. Dad taught me that we become what we think about, and to accomplish the seeming impossible requires focusing on positive outcomes and applying oneself 100% to the task at hand, maintaining consistency and dedication. In that defining moment, I learned by watching my dad and learning how to lead through kindness, direction, and expectation. Dad taught me these critical lessons about life and business. Number 1, brainstorming is powerful. Gathering many people's ideas, comments, and possible solutions often leads to easier and more productive ways to attain goals, solve problems, and tackle challenges. No one person has the right answers. It is critical that every person who is in any way connected to the goal, problem, or challenge be addressed, be brought into the brainstorming discussions, and take part in defining solutions and strategies. It takes a team and the cooperative intentions of each team member. Routine standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures and business rules save significant time and increase productivity and efficiency. Creating documented standard operating procedures that are shared in practice among key team members and associates saves time and money because the wheel does not have to be reinvented continuously. Hence, suggestions on how to divide time, increase efficiency, and delegate productive activities are mentioned throughout this book. I feel like that is the whole point of our Facebook groups. Communication is more than just saying or writing words. The light bulb must come on in the minds of both the communicator and the person who is receiving the communication. If this does not occur, the intended communication has not been achieved. Watching the eyes of the person receiving the communication will often signal whether the light bulb has come on or not. That's another reason this business of direct sales and one-on-one relationship building works so well. Often the most productive sales, training, and sponsoring events happen eyeball to eyeball. Take good care of your horses. Some members of the original key management team of Save on Drugs were of the Mormon faith with backgrounds in agriculture and farming. They understood very well that the work gets accomplished by the horses, and the horses need to be well taken care of to ensure that the work gets done. At SeneGence, that translates into providing the best of the best for each distributor who does the work. The best products, the greatest opportunity to earn the highest returns for sales income and commission income on the industry, and sponsoring bonuses, car programs, rewards and prizes, exotic trips, and lots of fun. Efficiency and productivity generally peak when the workload seems undoable. Okay, efficiency and productivity generally peak when the workload seems undoable. Human nature is such that the time required to accomplish a job expands with the time allowed. The great majority of people perform at their best when their workload seems almost impossible. The busiest people are the most productive and they get the most done. Choose to work with busy, productive individuals. The seemingly undoable will be achieved. This is good stuff, y'all. Almost done. Number 6, project setup time is significant. Project setup time is important and needs to be properly controlled. Planning and preparation is a very important function and needed to achieve goals. Pack your own parachute. Prepare to win. The setup work needs to be accomplished in advance of scheduled appointments so others are not standing around and losing interest while waiting for the setup work to be completed. Idle time is wasted time for the bottom line and end result. Number 7, 1 + 1 = 3. That's synergy. When 1 + 1 = 3, or possibly more, synergy has occurred. Synergy means the working together of two or more things to produce an effect greater than the sum of their individual effects. In SeneGence, there is great synergy when you mix phenomenal products with a fantastic compensation opportunity program and the efforts of amazing achievers. Products that really work, plus a career that really works, plus you and me equals SeneGence success. And now we just have, I think this is like a little Your Turn Chapter 1 challenge. So after I read that, we will be done for today, and I will read Chapter 2 tomorrow. Your Turn Chapter 1. I invite you to take a measure of or inventory of the life-changing experiences in your own life. Use the following worksheet to spend time reflecting on your early life and take note of the handful of life-changing experiences that affected you from that day forward. Okay, remember that you all have this book. It came in your distributor kit, okay? So you guys all have this. You can go back and follow through with it. Number 1, list any miracles that might have taken place in your life. We have all had them. The key is recognizing them. Do not be shy. And don't limit your perception. George Bernard Shaw wrote that life itself is the miracle of miracles. Start there and the rest will fall into place. Number 2, think of 3 experiences you had as a child that might have altered the course of your life or your attitude towards your future. How did you respond to them? Did you learn from them? And did you put them to use? Hint, they don't necessarily have to be bolts from the blue, divine white light, or some kind of epiphany. We can learn from adversity as well. And number 3, think of at least 3 people who have been the most profound influence upon your life. They may or may not be from your immediate realm of experience. They could be anyone. They can be people you've had interactions with at any level: spiritual, personal, business, sports, travel, or social. They don't even have to be positive influences, though I hope that they were. Let's just say the encounters and associations made an impact that stuck with you. If so, how did they stick? And what kind of impact did they make? How did they influence you and why? And did you put it to use? Does it serve you, or is it best now to eliminate that belief? Number 4 and final one, what use of these people, places, and opportunities have you made today? Are they still a part of your life? And have you changed because of them? Did they empower you or did they weaken you? Were you able to recognize it? We are only as effective in our lives as the use that we make our experiences. Nothing can be more self-defeating in life than to experience a crowning achievement or a bleak, abysmal failure, and we've all had them, and bring nothing from them. The success and failures you've had are gifts in your life. They're there to be cherished, learned from, and made use of in future dealings. That's exactly why you were given the chance to experience the event or situation. You should grow from it. So that's all of chapter 1. Again, this is $1 Million Lips. You guys all got this in your startup kit. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I just picked it up today and started reading it, and I think that it's amazing, and it couldn't have come at a better time. And I have so much more gratitude and love for Joni and her heart, and just imagining where she's at right now with everything that we're experiencing and our growing pains, and just knowing that she believes that this is her destiny. And so I'm super excited about this, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. So if you jumped on late, re-watch it, re-listen to it, whatever. And if you didn't, then pick up your book and read it, okay? I'll see y'all tomorrow for chapter 2. Bye!